Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot, and I'm on with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands, and it's just as well I've got a lot of time on my hands because this one is the first parish we've touched in Sheffield, and it's not just the first parish in Sheffield, it's also the biggest parish in terms of population in the entire South Yorkshire county, and it's made up of 5 distinct settlements, and we're going to visit each one in turn here, starting with the principal settlement and going around the other 4 and driving between the 2. There's so much to see in this one, so much that I know full well I'm not going to catch it all. Here's the first one then in the Sheffield series. Welcome to the parish of Ecclesfield. Welcome to Ecclesfield in the city of Sheffield, about 4 miles north of Sheffield city centre. The earliest known written record of Ecclesfield is from the Domesday Book of 1086, where it's referred to as Ecclesfield. The meaning of the name is uncertain. Traditionally, it's been derived from the Celtic Eccles, meaning a church, specifically a Romano-British one, and the Old English feld, meaning a woodland clearing. Thus the name could mean open land near a Romano-British Christian church. However, an alternative suggestion is that the first element, Eccles, derives from a Saxon personal name or an association with water. Morrison's is one of the local supermarkets you can find in this part of Sheffield, and this is just one of a whole host of amenities in South Yorkshire's biggest parish. Morrison's has a history all of its own here. It was built on the site of Norfolk Foundry, owned by John Green, which made portable cooking stoves for emigrants travelling across North America. Ecclesfield also had a paper mill in the 1800s. Ecclesfield parish is made up of 5 principal settlements, these being Ecclesfield, Chapeltown, High Green, Burncross and Grenoside. Ecclesfield parish had a population of 32,073 at the 2011 census, but the population of Ecclesfield village itself stood at just 7,163, meaning more than 3/4 of the population here actually live outside of Ecclesfield. Let's go into Ecclesfield Park now, one of the largest open green spaces this one has to offer, and have a little walk around. Ecclesfield village is in the southeast of the parish, with Chapeltown and High Green to the north and Grenoside to the west. Ecclesfield has an old square, a cricket club, this large park, the Gatty Memorial Hall, a secondary school, Ecclesfield Comprehensive School, which was previously called Ecclesfield Grammar School, and also a primary school. The remainder of the parish was transferred to Sheffield in 1974 as part of local government reorganisation throughout England. The part to the east of the M1 motorway, mainly part of Thorpe Hesley, was subsequently transferred to Rotherham Metropolitan District Council in 1994, and it no longer belongs to Ecclesfield or to the city of Sheffield. A local tradition in the area is something known as the Ecclesfield carols sung at Christmas. They are older from the carols known today and can be heard at the Ecclesfield Black Bull on the 6 Thursdays before Christmas. Their repertoire consists of around 30 carols and other songs, some unique to the village and some popular throughout the Sheffield area. They're often referred to collectively as the Sheffield Carols. The Domesday Book does not mention a church in Ecclesfield. The present Church of St Mary, one of only 5 Grade 1 listed buildings in Sheffield, largely dates from the 15th century, but incorporates features from about 1200. It was the centre of the ancient parish of Ecclesfield, which was one of the most extensive in England before it was broken up in the 19th century. Its style is perpendicular, with a central tower, and it formerly bore the title of the Minster of the Moors. It was once the church for the whole of Hallamshire, incorporating the parishes of Sheffield and Bradfield. The remains of Ecclesfield Priory and the Whitley Hall Hotel are also Grade 2 listed buildings within the parish of Ecclesfield. Not far from the church is the Benedictine Ecclesfield Priory, established in the 12th century, which served as a cell of St Wandrill's Abbey in Normandy until the 14th century. During the First World War, the Royal Flying Corps established a relief landing ground just outside the eastern boundary of the village, on land that is now largely given over to an industrial estate near the M1. Local government in Ecclesfield is in the hands of Ecclesfield Parish Council, which since the election of May 2019 consists of 10 Ecclesfield Parish independent councillors and 5 Liberal Democrats. In 2011, Ecclesfield was described as being 96.1% white British, with the rest being a mix of other ethnicities. Since 1801, the population has soared here. There were just 5,114 people here in 1801, but just 100 years later, in 1901, it was 33,808, more than what the current population is today. The average house in Ecclesfield will cost you these days around £188,000. In terms of sport, Ecclesfield FC was a prominent football team in the area from the 1880s, and Ecclesfield United also represented the area in the FA Cup. Ecclesfield Red Rose FC now represents the area in the Sheffield and Hallamshire County Senior Football League. Now, as well as the 5 settlements I've already mentioned within the parish of Ecclesfield, there is actually a 6th settlement, and that's called Whitley. Now, that is something I'm going to have to omit because I don't really have the time to go down there to film anything. It's a very tiny settlement anyway. It's here. If you look at this map on this board, we're in Ecclesfield, which is there. And to get to Whitley, you have to drive down this long, narrow lane to get to Whitley. And really, this map is from 1901, and this is pretty much what Whitley looks like now. It's not really changed much, I can assure you of that. There is Whitley Hall Hotel, which is somewhere there. I'm not quite sure, but I know it has got a hotel, a very posh hotel as well, which I've been to before. I'm going to omit Whitley, and I'm going to put that into today's picture bit. Let's move on. Let's go to Chapeltown next. Okay, so now we're in Chapeltown, and here everything is based around one central roundabout, which you get to underneath these railway arches, which virtually run over the top of said roundabout. It's all clustered together in one area, so let's go and investigate Chapeltown now. Chapeltown is located approximately 7 miles north of Sheffield city centre on the railway between Sheffield and Barnsley. Until industrial expansion, Chapeltown was a hamlet that originated at the intersection of the roads between Sheffield and Barnsley and between Rotherham and Whitley. In the late 16th century, a blast furnace was installed here, which initially used charcoal and from 1780 was fired with coke. Coal mining was one of the main occupations of the inhabitants. The works of Newton, Chambers and Company were first established in Chapeltown in 1793. Initially, they were an ironworks specialising in cast iron products. By the end of the 19th century, the company were not only mining coal and ironstone, but building blast furnaces, coke ovens and chemical plants. Heavy section iron cast in the foundry was used in 2 iconic structures: Tower Bridge crossing the River Thames in London and the Eddystone Lighthouse off the Devon coast in Plymouth. Over time, the company expanded into related mining industries and products from the fractional distillation of coal, including the Isle disinfectant range. The name Isle became well known for its use on a best-selling medicated toilet paper, often found in schools and public laboratories, noted for its abrasive quality. In the Second World War, they produced Churchill tanks. The company's site is now Thorncliffe Industrial Estate, where most of the industry in Chapeltown is located. Chapeltown railway station now, which connects the area with central Sheffield, Huddersfield and Leeds. The present station was the first to be opened under the governance of the South Yorkshire Passenger Transport Executive in 1984. The original station, just over a quarter of a mile or 600 metres nearer to Barnsley, closed at the same time. That station was Chapeltown Central and was situated on the former South Yorkshire Railway's Blackburn Valley line between Ecclesfield East and Westwood. The station, which was also known as Chapeltown and Thorncliffe, was intended to serve Chapeltown, although it also served the works of Newton Chambers and Company. Closure to passengers came on the 7th of December 1953 and to all traffic in April 1954. The station is now a private residence. The existing station has concrete platforms which each have a bus stop style waiting shelter, along with timetable information boards, and a customer help point is located on platform 2. Though the station is unmanned, a self-service ticket machine is provided for travellers to buy them prior to boarding. The station featured in an episode of the 8th season of the BBC documentary series Great British Railway Journeys in January 2017. Now, of course, we're used to seeing book exchanges in old telephone boxes, but here in Chapeltown, they have a little box here on the back of this shelter where you can do just that. It's a little bit smaller than what we're used to, but it's the same idea. Two junctions of the M1 motorway also serve this area, and the A6135 road passes through the town from north to south and is joined near the town centre by the A629 road from the southeast and the B6546 road from the west. Like much of Sheffield, there's a large amount of green space in and around Chapeltown. The town has a cricket ground and a wooded park on either side of it. Now let's go into Chapeltown Park, which stands right next to the Thomas Chambers Newton Memorial Hall. To do that, we have to cross this stretch of water, this being Blackburn Brook. Chapeltown Park hosts a range of events, including an annual gala, normally at the beginning of July. Such events that take place here are kite flying in March, an Easter egg hunt, a dog show in June, and grass sledging in August. The Friends of Chapeltown Park are a group of local volunteers who work with Sheffield City Council Parks Department to improve facilities and encourage visitors into the park, as well as fundraise for new equipment and to put on the very events which we've just spoken about. The park is situated on top of a small hill which you walk up upon crossing the brook, and immediately to your right as you come into the park is the War Memorial. And there is a second roundabout as well. This one gives you the option of High Green or Burncross on the B6546. And next we're going to go towards Burncross. Although covered by modern housing today, much of the area between Chapeltown and Burncross was still open fields at the end of the 19th century. Farming remained important to many people. Others found work in the local mines and foundries. Although Newton Chambers was a major employer, there were other smaller enterprises. Greenside Ironworks stood where the library is today, and Paramore's foundry was nearby. Originally iron founders, F. Paramore and Sons also made Paramo hand tools. Coal and ironstone mining was so important to the lives of Chapeltown people. Miners sank shallow shafts or drift mines to extract coal and bell pits to reach the ironstone. Over time, shafts went deeper and the drift mines became more extensive, with spoil deposited over a large area. By the 1890s, Newton Chambers were mining 1 million tonnes of coal a year, operating 9 collieries at various times. Of these, Rockingham Colliery, which opened in 1875, was the deepest and most important. In the early 19th century, children, some as young as 5 or 6, worked in the pits. The older ones worked as trammers or hurriers, pulling trucks called corves, full of coal from the coalface to the shaft. Chapeltown's past was moulded by its environment. Prosperity came from people exploiting the natural resources of the area, the land, woods, iron and coal. Today, the pits and foundries have long gone, replaced by modern business parks and housing developments, but pride in the past can shape the future. Okay, so that's Chapeltown. Next, the camera's going on the dashboard as we drive up towards High Green. So this is the High Green area then of Ecclesfield, and this is much more residential than Chapeltown. Again, it's based around one central area, so we're just going to explore that and then we'll move on to the next part of Ecclesfield Parish. High Green is the northernmost suburb of Sheffield, located about 8 miles from the city centre. This has expanded rapidly to fill its green belt limits within the last 20 years, now almost seamlessly merging with Chapeltown. The centre of High Green has a post office that's recently moved to the local shop, a local pub, a dentist, 2 doctors' practices, and a few shops along the main street, Whitley Road. Since 1997, High Green has been the home of Parishes, a registered charity managing services for children and young people with cerebral palsy and their families, including Parishes School, which uses the conductive education approach. High Green has 2 main estates based around their equally named parks, Mortemley Park and Angram Bank Recreation Park. Now I wonder out there amongst my followers whether I have any Arctic Monkeys fans. If I do, this is the area of Sheffield, High Green, where they come from. And they're even referenced on this board outside Ecclesfield Parish Council, because I knew this before I came here. They have a song called Red Light Indicates Doors Are Secured, and it includes High Green in the lyrics. I said, it's High Green, mate, via Hillsborough, please. At the end of another song, All My Own Stunts, band member Matt Helders shouts, because I'm from High Green, I'm from High Green. The band's drumhead features the numbers 0114, the dialing code for Sheffield. High Green hit the national headlines over Christmas 2012 when the organist at St Saviour's Parish Church was murdered on his way to midnight communion on Christmas Eve. 2 men were later convicted and jailed for the attack. High Green began life as a small hamlet around a green and remained largely agricultural until the establishment of Thorncliffe Ironworks at the end of the 18th century. Together with neighbouring Mortemley, it then expanded steadily to house the workers in the nearby collieries and ironworks. Now demolished, Mortemley Hall was situated opposite the parish council offices. Built in 1703 for the Parkin family, it was demolished in the 1960s, and apartments now occupy the site. Okay, so here we are in Burncross, and it's basically just one long road with some bits and bobs coming off either side. If you head that way, you'll eventually hit the A61, and if you go back this way, that takes you back towards Chapeltown station. So what I'm going to do here, there's not really much to film here in Burncross. I'm just going to walk down this road for a little way and then walk back again as far as the Acorn pub, which you can see on the corner there just behind my car. Let's have a little look around Burncross. Burncross is a mostly residential area which includes the Grade 2 listed Barnes Hall, rebuilt in 1824. There's been a building on the site since at least the reign of Edward III from 1327 to 1377, when it appeared in the roll of dependencies of the Manor of Sheffield and was known as Manarium de Burns. The first known occupants of the building were the Barnes family, who lived there in the 13th and the 14th centuries. The estate then passed by marriage to the Bromley family, who sold it to Robert Shatton in 1442. Shatton sold the hall in 1477 for £140 to Thomas Rotherham, who served as Archbishop of York and Lord Chancellor during his lifetime. He came from a family with a long connection with the parish of Ecclesfield. He would own the hall until his death from the bubonic plague on the 29th of May 1500, aged 76. Between High Green and Burncross is a stream called Charlton Brook, which flows through an unexpectedly tranquil area of green space. At the top end of the valley is Charlton Brook Dam, which is just behind the Acorn pub that you can see in shot here. Paths lead through the former ancient meadows and woodlands, and there's a picnic area as well as a children's play area and a BMX track at the bottom end. In the mid-1950s, there were about 50 houses, 2 shops, a farm, a foundry and a pub here. It was known as the hamlet of Charlton Brook, and it was a small, close-knit community, with some families having lived in the area for several generations. The foundry, Charlton Ironworks, which made cast iron manhole covers and grates, closed and was demolished around 1990. Okay, lastly, it's Grenoside, so I need to turn the car around and head that way, down the A61 and into Grenoside to finish this massive parish of South Yorkshire and Sheffield off. To Grenoside now then to finish this one off. This lies in the west of the parish on the border with Bradfield. Historically, Grenoside village was known for quarrying sandstone. There's a large park in Grenoside, which we'll take a walk through to get to the main street of the village. This park is by no means as large as either Ecclesfield Park or Chapeltown Park, but it's certainly still a decent size. In a short while, we'll be on the other side of this with a cracking view over the valley below. Grenoside provided historians with evidence of early settlement in the Ecclesfield area, including remnants of Romano-British settlements and field systems in Greno Wood. Seen in today's picture bit, Greno Wood is on the border of Ecclesfield Parish and is a forested area listed as Grade B on the English Nature Invertebrate Site Register. It has special archaeological and geological significance. The wood is managed by the Wildlife Trust for Sheffield and Rotherham. Heading up the hill here, we're passing Grenoside Methodist Church. This comes before a few shops, including Wastony's Butchers, which we'll see shortly, and also Grenoside Primary School. Grenoside Green is one of the most interesting parts of the village. This was part of Greno Moor, which was mostly grass and heathland. It's hard to define where the centre of Grenoside is, but I would say it's here outside Wastony's Butchers. You've got the old Harrow pub over there and the Angel pub over here, and you've also got this, which is very interesting. Look at this. This red brick wall is all that remains of a World War II air raid shelter that once stood on this site. There you go. Didn't know that. Here you can see a file cutter's scythe, which was rescued by Ecclesfield Parish Council from outside the former Chapeltown swimming baths. It's now been donated to the Friends of Grenoside Green. Grenoside had 120 file cutters back in 1861. This was partly due to the fact that the village produced crucible steel as well as sandstone. Other metal trades, such as the manufacture of shuttle tips and butcher's knives, went on in workshops in some of the older houses in the village. The Ellison family lived in the house that was directly south of Grenoside Green. Joe Ellison was the last file cutter in the village in the 1920s, and his workshop fronted Main Street, a former turnpike road. Oh look guys, the Transpennine Trail is here once again. Do you know, I must be getting a keen eye. It even says on this board here, Grenoside Green lies in the middle of the village. There you go. I was correct. We continue down Main Street and past St Mark's Church next. This overlooks the valley we spoke about earlier, and as we approach and pass the Grenoside Community Centre, we get a great look across it. If you live up here, there's no way on earth you can say you don't have something nice to wake up to in the morning. Speaking of nice views, now to finish this video off in a few moments time, I'll be heading that way because there's a nice scenic spot which I've located on the map, something I didn't even know existed. And you know, even though I live in Rotherham, which is not too far away from this area of Sheffield, I never knew that that's where we're going to head later is a thing. So hopefully it's going to be quite a nice way to end. The last part of our walk around Grenoside takes us towards the surgery and Grenoside Grange, which is owned by the NHS. But this has a much more interesting history to it. On the wall opposite is a board which tells us about it. This is the wall until 2003 when it was demolished. Behind this wall was the vagrants' quarters of the Whitley Union Workhouse, and Grenoside Grange was the administration block. The workhouse offered the very basic food and shelter needed by homeless travellers, providing such for minimal duties as stone breaking or oakum picking. Okay, as I make my way up Greno Crescent back to where I parked the car on Blacksmith Lane, we are pretty much done with Grenoside and with Ecclesfield as a whole. Now, normally in the picture bit you get 5 pictures these days and it lasts exactly 1 minute, but because this one is quite big, I'm giving you double the amount today. You're going to get 10 pictures. Here's 2 minutes worth of picture bit for the parish of Ecclesfield. Okay, to finish this one off, I've come to something called the Burley Stone, which is right on the border between the parish of Ecclesfield and the parish of Bradfield. This is the Burley Stone, erected by the Whitley Rural District Council in 1951. And from here, you have one fantastic view. Look at this. Get a load of that. It reminds me a lot of Hunshelf in Barnsley. The only difference is today is a nice clear day, and in that episode it was all misty. And this is the kind of thing you would have seen had it not been a misty day up there in Hunshelf Parish in Barnsley. And there you go. That's a nice way, I think, to end the parish of Ecclesfield. And I know full well, people, that this one will have missed things. This is the biggest parish in South Yorkshire. It's got 30,000 people living in it. It spans a huge part of the city of Sheffield, and there's no way I can cover it all. And I don't think I've done bad, to be honest with you. I've tried to include as much information as I possibly could, and I think I've done a good job. But as always, if there's anything else that you think I maybe should have gone to, I maybe should have filmed or spoken about, comment section is right down there. But please don't hold it against me if there's something massive I've missed, because it's such a big parish, huge. Definitely one of the trickier ones I've tried, but it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it for a view like this at the end. Time to move on to my next one. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and this has been the parish of Ecclesfield, and I'm out. Except we're not quite out just yet. I had a request to include Thorpe Hesley in this video at the end of Ecclesfield, as it used to be part of Ecclesfield Parish. So because of that, I took the car around Thorpe Hesley to finish this one off. Enjoy!